This year, the Massachusetts sales tax holiday could last the entire months of August and September. That is, if state lawmakers approve Governor Charlie Baker's proposal. Now, the governor wants to eliminate state sales tax on retail items up to $2,500 that are purchased in Massachusetts for personal use during those 2 months. Joining us now to discuss live here on CBSN Boston is State Senator Eric Lesser, who chairs the Economic Development Committee. So, Senator, what are your thoughts on this proposal?
Well, thanks for having me, Paula. Look, I would love to see a tax break just like everybody else on these products, but the reality of it is it's not necessary right now. And we have very important needs in our state, whether it's fixing the T, fixing our crumbling bridges, reducing class sizes after a very hard year with COVID. It feels irresponsible at this point, especially when the economy is on such a tear right now, to be doing something like this when we've got quite a lot of unmet needs.
Now, the governor contends that the expansion of the sales tax holiday is only possible because the state is anticipating a significant surplus when the fiscal year ends on June 30th. So can you tell us more about where we stand financially, how the governor would think this is a good idea?
Well, it's certainly true that we are well above benchmarks in terms of state revenue, and we are looking to have a very good budget year. But I think it's precisely because of that that we need to make investments right now when we see these, better than expected tax returns to pay down our debt. The state has billions of dollars in unfunded liabilities that we need to pay down, whether it's investing in the T and finally getting the MBTA up to good maintenance, whether it's getting our bridges repaired. That we've got bridges all across the state that are in desperate need of repair. Some are closed because they're not safe to cross over. Now is the time if we have that extra money. By the way, I would also recommend that we stash some of that away in a rainy day fund. We have a lot of unknowns coming up in the future. We're just coming out of a terrible shock with COVID. We're coming out of a very hard year. I think prudence is the most important thing here, and making sure that we're meeting our obligations as a state has got to be paramount.
Certainly, and the governor is saying that he obviously wants to encourage people to shop locally. So many of these local retailers had to be shut down over the last 14 to 15 months. And he says this is a way to say thank you to both consumers and business owners who had to cooperate during the pandemic. So why wouldn't we want people to use these 2 months to go buy as much as they can at their local stores?
Well, I certainly agree with him that our local businesses have just been hammered over the last 15, 16 months from COVID. I've been on the front line in the state legislature and trying to approve hundreds of millions of dollars in aid. We made the PPP loans, for example, tax-free in Massachusetts. So there's been significant aid provided. And frankly, this is just not the feedback that the business community has been giving us about what they need. Right now, we're actually hearing about other more urgent challenges like the ability to get enough workers, the ability to fully staff up their operations after a year of very slow business. That, I think, is a more appropriate place to put the resources than a 2-month sales tax holiday. What's going to happen after the 2 months is over and it goes back? It just feels to me, frankly, like a bit of a gimmick and is not tied to what the actual need is, and will potentially make it harder for us to do those important things that we've got to do, whether it's paying down debt, whether it's stashing away funds in a rainy day fund for the next emergency, or investing in repairs to our roads, our bridges, reducing class sizes, fixing the T. Again, we've got quite a lot of obligations in this state. And I think we've got to make sure that when times are good, which they are now looking pretty good, we've got to make sure that we're remembering that it's not always like that. We've got to save and invest.
So again, this is the governor's proposal. It would need the approval of the Massachusetts House and Senate before there would be this sales tax holiday. August 1st, just over a month away. So what's the timeline for lawmakers to consider the plan?
Well, the timeline is right now. It's a very quick timeline. I'd point out that, I've been a supporter of sales tax holidays. I was the sponsor just recently of the measure to do the August sales tax holiday that we've done on a regular basis in the legislature. People are not necessarily against, of course, giving people a break, especially after a hard year. But I think that the legislature is going to be skeptical of this proposal. It was announced kind of at the last minute. Again, the date is right upon us, coming up in August, and there are, again, quite a lot of very urgent priorities that we've got that we need to invest this money in to make sure that we continue to grow and continue to see that demand in the retail sector.
Well, it'll be interesting to see it work its way through the legislature over the next 5 or 6 weeks or so. State Senator Eric Lesser, thanks so much for your time. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.